If you are looking at the global markets right now, you are witnessing the largest realignment of international trade power and security since the fall of the Berlin Wall. You are watching the very architecture of the global economy being ripped apart and rewritten in real time. For decades, the global trading system revolved around a single, undeniable center of gravity. That center of gravity was the United States of America. Every supply chain, every trade deal, every financial calculation in the modern world ultimately traced back to Washington, D.C. But today, that map of the world has been completely redrawn. The United States has been surgically removed from the center of global influence in what can only be described as a masterstroke of coordinated diplomatic and economic strategy. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has announced the formation of a massive new 40-nation plurilateral coalition. This coalition spans Europe, the Trans-Pacific Partnership nations, and large emerging markets in the global south. They have officially agreed to integrate supply chains, share critical minerals, and synchronize their defense industrial bases. They did not just sign a trade agreement, they constructed a fortress, and they locked Donald Trump outside of it. In the next few minutes, I am going to explain exactly how this historic collapse of American influence unfolded. I am going to break down the strategic moves Carney made behind the scenes at the World Economic Forum in Davos. I am going to show you the billions of dollars hemorrhaging out of the United States economy as we speak. Most importantly, I am going to reveal how Donald Trump's obsession with his own ego is set to make your groceries, your vehicles, and your everyday life significantly more expensive. To grasp the sheer magnitude of this moment, we must look at the exact chain of events that brought us here. Just days ago, President Donald Trump believed he held ultimate leverage over Canada. He viewed the deeply integrated North American economy as a weapon and threatened to use it aggressively. Through social media, he announced a completely devastating 100% tariff on all Canadian goods. He did not merely threaten Canada's economy, he insulted its fundamental sovereignty. He publicly referred to Prime Minister Mark Carney as a governor, implying that Canada was nothing more than a subordinate territory, a quasi-state that existed only because of U.S. largesse. Trump declared that if Canada pursued independent economic agreements with China or any other nation, he would crush them. He believed that sheer American size and intimidation could compel unquestioning submission. But Mark Carney is not a reality television star. He does not govern by impulse, and he does not panic when a bully starts screaming. He is a globally respected, deeply connected former central banker who understands the hidden, intricate plumbing of the global financial system far better than anyone currently in the Trump administration. Carney did not fire off angry tweets. He did not hold a press conference. He packed a briefcase, boarded a plane to Switzerland, and went to the World Economic Forum in Davos to dismantle the American empire in front of the world. The speech Carney delivered in Davos will be studied in history books for generations. He did not offer political talking points. He offered a eulogy for the post-Cold War world order. He told the assembled global elite that the era of unquestioned American hegemony had experienced a rupture. He called out the hypocrisy of powerful nations, including the United States, that used economic integration as a weapon, wielded tariffs as coercion, and treated supply chains as vulnerabilities. Then he delivered a metaphor that shattered the spell Donald Trump had cast over the global economy. Carney referenced a famous essay about a humble grocer living under a despotic regime. Each day, the grocer displayed a propaganda sign in his window, not out of belief, but to avoid trouble from the bully in charge. Carney explained that, for decades, middle powers like Canada had been placing a figurative sign in the window, pretending the United States was a reliable, rules-based partner. Then, with the entire world watching, Carney announced that Canada was taking the sign down. Canada and the alliance of middle powers would no longer submit to the chaotic whims of a fading superpower. They would act together, pooling strength and creating alternatives. Trump demanded submission. Carney delivered a revolution. And this was not merely symbolic. It was the launch of a highly coordinated economic strike with devastating practical consequences. Let us examine the concrete evidence and receipts of this seismic realignment. The first receipt is defense spending. For decades, the United States defense industry dominated the global market. Advanced fighter jets, radar systems, and military hardware all originated in America. Carney has flipped this system. Canada recently unveiled a $180 billion defense industrial strategy. More importantly, Canada has joined the European Union's Safe Defense Procurement Arrangement. This means that a European aerospace firm, a Canadian drone manufacturer, and an Australian robotics company can now bid on each other's military contracts with zero friction. The United States has been effectively locked out of this new closed-loop defense supply chain. Lockheed Martin and Boeing, which for decades dominated global defense sales, suddenly face unprecedented competition from allies who previously relied on U.S. systems. The second receipt concerns critical minerals and the future of technology. Lithium, cobalt, and rare earth elements underpin electric vehicles, smartphones, and the artificial intelligence revolution. Under Carney's leadership, the 40-nation coalition has formed an exclusive buyers club anchored in the G7. These countries are pooling resources to secure supply lines for these essential materials. American technology companies that want access to lithium from Canada or cobalt from Australia will now pay massive premiums, while coalition members trade freely. Trump's attempt to leverage steel tariffs is trivial compared to Carney's control over the building blocks of the 21st century economy. The third receipt is domestic policy. Carney has mandated that billions of dollars in housing, infrastructure, and national projects in Canada must use exclusively Canadian materials: steel, aluminum, lumber, and workers. For American factories in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Michigan that rely on exporting these goods northward, this is devastating. Trump promised a manufacturing renaissance in the United States, but his own reckless behavior is destroying the largest export market American workers have ever had. The fourth receipt is capital movement. While Trump was posting threats online, Carney quietly met with global CEOs controlling over $20 trillion in combined market capitalization. He offered stability, reliability, and pragmatic governance. Canada's AAA credit rating, its low net debt to GDP ratio, and a banking system that does not collapse every 5 years. The result is an enormous redirection of foreign direct investment from the United States to Canadian energy, quantum computing, and health technology sectors. Smart money prefers a calm, predictable environment over the volatility of impulsive leadership. The fifth receipt is diplomatic leverage. While Washington has been paralyzed by infighting and trade wars, Canada has diversified ruthlessly. Agreements with China unlocked $7 billion in export markets. Partnerships with Qatar strengthened trade and defense ties. Canada is building a bridge between the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the European Union, creating a trading bloc encompassing 1.5 billion people. Every time Trump tries to build walls, Carney constructs bridges, leaving the United States isolated. The contrast between these two men could not be more striking. In Washington, the president operates in a state of constant volatility, reacting impulsively to every perceived slight or threat. Reports suggest that he yells at aides, throws papers across rooms, and attempts to resolve complex international disputes through intimidation and spectacle. His strategy is built on the assumption that sheer size and aggression will force compliance. Diplomacy, in his view, is a performance, a matter of volume and ego rather than careful calculation or long-term strategy. Every decision is driven by emotion, every threat intended to intimidate, every tweet designed to dominate the conversation without regard for the underlying systems that govern global trade, finance, and security. Across the border, in Ottawa, Prime Minister Mark Carney operates in an entirely different dimension of leadership. His approach is measured, deliberate, and analytical. Carney does not react emotionally, he calculates. He analyzes the intricate mathematics of global trade, the hidden flows of capital, and the interdependencies of supply chains. Every move he makes is designed to neutralize potential threats before they can take effect. Unlike the impulsive chaos emanating from Washington, Carney's strategy is rooted in pragmatism, long-term planning, and an intimate understanding of international economic networks. He is not motivated by anger or personal vendettas. He is motivated by the need to safeguard his nation's economic stability and sovereignty in a volatile world. His calm, precise actions have the effect of rendering loud threats irrelevant, leaving the United States scrambling to respond to a reality it no longer controls. But while this high-level geopolitical chess game unfolds, ordinary Americans will feel the consequences in ways that hit directly at their daily lives. The formation of the 40-nation coalition and its parallel supply chains signals the end of an era of cheap, seamless, and frictionless global trade. American companies that once relied on established routes and suppliers for critical components, from auto parts to electronics to essential raw materials, now face exclusion from these tightly coordinated networks. As a result, they are forced to scramble for alternatives, often at higher costs and with significant delays. Production costs will inevitably surge, and corporations do not absorb these increases. Instead, they pass them directly to consumers, meaning everyday Americans will pay more for cars, electronics, groceries, and other basic goods. The ripple effects of Carney's carefully calculated moves extend far beyond the corridors of power, directly impacting the American workforce, families, and households, making clear that the consequences of global strategy are never abstract. They are personal, immediate, and unavoidable. Think of going to a car dealership next month. Parts previously crossing the border multiple times before assembly are now restricted. Empty lots and massive price hikes will appear. A standard pickup truck could increase by thousands of dollars simply because of Trump's confrontation with Canada. Grocery prices will rise as well. Packaging, fuel, and agricultural imports will all become more expensive. Inflation will spike, fueled by tariffs that act as hidden tax increases on the middle class. Your retirement is also at risk. If you have a 401k invested in U.S. equities, the long-term growth of American companies depends on global markets and global expansion. A 40-nation alliance operating outside Wall Street undermines those assumptions, depressing long-term returns. Tech giants, manufacturers, and logistics firms will all take significant hits. Your life savings could erode because diplomacy has been treated like a reality show. Looking forward, 3 scenarios loom. Scenario A: economic surrender. The sheer economic weight of the 40-nation coalition forces the United States to rescind tariffs and apologize, but credibility is permanently damaged. Scenario B: authoritarian escalation. Trump refuses to yield, declares a national emergency, freezes Canadian assets, and militarizes the northern border, triggering a global recession and sanctioning by the coalition. Scenario C: deep state mutiny. American institutions take emergency action to restrain presidential power. Congress passes veto-proof legislation, and the Republican Party fractures, precipitating a constitutional crisis. Regardless of which scenario occurs, one fact is undeniable: the American century is over. It did not end in war or invasion. It ended because a calm, intelligent leader looked at a chaotic American president and said no. Mark Carney demonstrated that the world can function without the United States. Stability, intelligence, and mutual respect are far more powerful than threats and tariffs. As you watch prices rise, factories stall, and global attention shift away from Washington, you must ask yourself, is this the greatness you were promised? We are witnessing a fundamental turning point in human history. The map has been redrawn, and the United States now stands isolated while the rest of the world adapts. We will continue tracking this situation in real time, monitoring currency markets, supply chains, and the desperate maneuvers of the White House. Mainstream media may shy away from telling you the full truth, but this channel will provide unfiltered coverage of the consequences of this 40-nation coalition. Hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stay informed. The economic fallout from this alliance will impact your bank account faster than anyone can imagine. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Did Mark Carney save the global economy, or did he just ignite the final trade war? Do you blame Canada for protecting itself, or do you blame Donald Trump for driving away our closest allies? I read every comment, and I want to know where you stand. Stay awake, stay informed. History is unfolding before your eyes.